Coming up in episode 50.
And if you say Selena, people know who you're referencing. And that is iconic. And like, if people can sit there and sing the Beady Beady Bom Bom song to you, they don't even know what they're saying. And that's just, it blows my mind. And I think to myself, like, wow.
Welcome to another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan Alanis and Angelica Casares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. In this week's In Case You Missed It segments, we talk a little bit about Selena finally getting her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and our thoughts about the inaugural season of Queen of the South. Also, Angelica and I have a conversation about HispanicHouston.com. Just a reminder that you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittlradioshow.com. The Little Radio Show is brought to you in partnership with juanofwords.com and HispanicHouston.com. Now, I know that we mentioned Selena a lot on this show, but this week it's news. I'm serious. It is actually news.
It's on news.
It's
on news. Hold on, Sandra. It's on news.
We're biting Sandra. Into this, before we go off on our regular, off onto left field kind of thing, the announcement came out recently that more than 20 years after her death, Selena Quintanilla Perez is finally getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I thought she already had one. It's one of those things. And so I can't believe that it's taken this long, and it's so wonderful that it's finally going to happen.
That was my same reaction as you, Sandra, where not that I thought she had one, but I thought myself, does she really need one? I mean, she's so famous. She's so beyond the star from Hollywood star that I thought she just needs like buildings named after her at this point. She has a park named after her. She needs a couple of schools. Like, she's beyond this. Yes, it is very nice, that, but there's this thing where I guess this inclusion now that's happening, and I thought to myself, why are you including her? We've included her many, many years ago. Like, it's that
we've
like
given
that
her own
thing.
Walk of Fame.
You know what I mean?
So just for reference out there, to those of you who are listening, that doesn't mean we want them to take back the star.
No, that definitely doesn't mean that. That definitely does not mean that. Let's clarify that.
How like a true testament to her career, to her talent, to her star power, that she, after 21 years, she's going to have this star on Hollywood. And what I really liked was Eva Longoria's reaction, because she's also getting a star in the same time frame, and she was saying, like, wow, this is like such an honor, because I started my career because I was inspired by what Selena had represented and everything. So how cool is that? Like, 21 years later, who gets a star in Hollywood Hall of Fame?
Well, just big names. Now, some people will argue that it's the recent controversy about, as you said, inclusion, that Hollywood, that the Academy of Arts, the whole thing about there not being enough quote-unquote color represented in awards and acknowledgments. And so that may in fact be a part of it. I don't know. What I do know is Selena is getting a star.
I want her star next to Cantinflas' star. So whoever's right there right now, push them over a little bit and put Selena right there.
But you think to yourself, she's beyond like the mortal herself. You know what I mean? Like, she's beyond.
She's a legend. I mean, that's the thing.
She is, and she.
Well, then she deserves
so much inclusion. She deserved. I think she deserved a star a long time ago.
Yes.
But it's nice that she's getting it now.
But you're the one who keeps comparing her influence to, like, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I know, because she's so beyond this. You know what I mean? Like, she's so, like, immortal in our minds that we just feel she's not really...
She has, has long-lasting impact.
But as somebody who's been through the Hollywood Walk of Fame and who walked around...
I've never done that.
And
excuse me.
And not seen a lot of Latino names, yes, let's add one more and let that name be Selena.
There's many more that we can add. Let's be honest. There's many more that we can add. Am I happy that she's included? Yes, definitely. Do I think it should have been when she was alive? Of course. Hello, she had the influence then, and I think people are paying attention to that because she's so like culturally relevant right now. It's just the Selena name. It's just kind of even like kids who've never heard of her like know who she is. Like they hear her music. She's iconic. She's just iconic.
Unfortunately, it wasn't until after her death that she became mainstream. I remember the year that she was killed, and I was an intern that semester, and she had just broken the records at the rodeo for the highest attendance of any concert. And they were talking about it in the news, and there are these lovely, very nice little old white ladies that I worked with who are like, who the heck is that, and why, what do they mean that they broke the record?
Like, when she was before she passed away, like she was here in Houston and all over Texas constantly. She was constantly playing.
She did carnivals.
So she wasn't it wasn't like she was a huge star, like like a J-Lo or like a like a Madonna. She wasn't at that point yet. But then once she passed away, then people started like realizing how great she actually was, and then.
But she was a huge star. She just wasn't mainstream.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. She wasn't like a huge mainstream star that everybody knew.
I don't remember. We live in Texas, and so she was a star to me since I can remember. Since I was like in 5th grade, I knew her music. I knew who she was. I knew who she was. I was in 7th grade when she passed away. But I knew who she was. And so I didn't see that the way you did, Sandra, where she, like, people didn't recognize her, people didn't know her. Like, my life revolved around, like, music because of my mom and so on. And so I just knew about her. And so maybe to me it is a little bit different. To me, it's like, she forever. How is this not news?
From day one.
Yeah. My mom made me put a yellow ribbon on my car when she passed away for a month. Oh, my goodness, yes. My mom's a huge fan. And, oh, by the way, my mother just realized that I mentioned her in the radio show, like in last week's show or something. And she's like, you talk about me on the radio? And I'm like, yes. And then my brother, because I asked him about a book that we mentioned in a previous episode. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, we were talking about it on the show, and I couldn't remember the name. He goes, wait a minute. You talk about me on the show? I'm going to have to listen now.
Uh-oh.
But anyway.
We'll behave.
But that, I guess... in my universe, I tend to interact a lot with people who don't have a strong ties to the Hispanic community. So a few years ago, not last year when Mana came, but remember a few years ago when they came and they had like 2 concerts at the Toyota Center and they sold out back to back. Yeah. And they sold them out. And I was volunteering for an event, and one of the women that I worked with, we were setting up. We're gonna have high school students and their parents and whatever. I mean, we're setting everything up, and someone put music on. She put Mana, and this other woman goes, "Oh, this is very nice. Who is this?" And we're like, "Oh, well, this is Mana." And she's like, "Oh, are they new?" And I'm like, "Are they new?" I'm like, "No, they're not new." And because I'm being polite, I'm like, "No, they're not." She goes, "Oh." And she's like, well, I guess they must not be very well known. And I'm like, well, they just sold out the Toyota Center for 2 days, 2 days back to back. They're one of the largest names in Hispanic music in the world.
It's Juan's brother-in-law has a cousin who visited, and she was here for around the time the Mana concert took place, and I
remember,
and it was a huge deal. They're a huge deal like in Latin America.
In Latin America?
No, in America, in the U.S. too, Mana is a huge deal. I mean, MTV has had an Unplugged with them. They don't do that for just anybody.
Yeah. But I mean, but in Latin America, these big things, and they're well known, and everybody, they're so well. I mean, anywhere that they speak the Spanish language, you know who Mana is.
I know.
Maybe if you just don't speak the Spanish language, maybe you just don't realize who they are. But as in terms of Selena, you don't even have to talk the Spanish language to know who she is at this point.
Well, not in Texas.
Yeah. Well, and outside of Texas, you can go anywhere in the States. And if you say Selena, people know who you're referencing. And that is iconic. And like, if people can sit there and sing the Beady Beady Bom Bom song to you, they don't even know what they're saying. And that's just, it blows my mind. And I think to myself, like, wow, you reached the masses that, and such a positive masses, you know what I mean? In such a positive way by, your personality, your character that you're singing that it's, again, like I said, she's so like immortal. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I don't know if I'm...
Well, anyway, in 2017, she and Eva Longoria are expected to get Hollywood Walk of Fame stars, and maybe that should be a reason for us to go out and actually see it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Somebody can send me a picture. I'll look at it. But I'm going to go visit it.
That's the other thing I was going to say is, however, for those of you who are friends and family and the three people we're not related to, listen to the show. If you happen to go by and see the star, please send it
I wonder
to
how
us.
much. I wonder what kind of audience it's gonna get when they're gonna like lay it down. You know how they lay it down or whatever. I wonder what kind of audience.
Usually.
I would love to be there for that. That's for sure.
Well, I would like to. I hope all the family and everybody goes out for that because I think that would be really special for the family and.
I think that's a given.
And all the people who benefited from her celebrity.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And also in entertainment news, Queen of the South is finally live on USA. It's been running for a couple of weeks at this point. So I saw the premiere. I went through, and so that means that I can now talk spoilers about the crap that actually happens on there. But I've been live tweeting it and discussing with fans on it and seeing reviews. And of course, there's in the pilot episode, there's a rape scene that, of course, got a lot of controversy because of the conversation as to whether or not it's necessary to continue to portray violence against women as part of it. The rape scene is in the book. It's in the original. It's in the original telenovela that it happens. Does
it happen against? I didn't read the book, and I try to watch the USA, when they and I cannot get into it.
You can't?
I cannot.
It's a little disjointed. It's a little disjointed, and the pace is very frenetic. It's like go, 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 go. And that's one of the things that I am seeing, that it's very different.
I feel like it has this like ambiance of like a scary movie or something. And you're like, okay. And I'm like, what's going? Well, and I'm like, okay, this is.
What did you think about the fact that they started out with her being shot?
We
didn't see
that part. We only saw. I think we caught a random episode on USA, so I don't know how far into the story it was. But there was another lady who wasn't Teresa, who was like
the the godmother.
The woman that's protecting her.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this? Because in the novela, she was not a part of the movie.
Yeah, she's a completely new character.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't like this. Like, who is this? And why is she the focus of the attention?
They're completely messing with a bunch of stuff. It's like, this is happening in the U.S. and not in
And see, my thing with that is like, Teresa was the badass, not this other lady. Yes. So who is this other lady?
But
that's why I was like,
the pilot episode starts out with Teresa at the pinnacle of her, she is in charge of everyone. She's like coming out of a meeting or whatever, and then somebody shoots her.
Kicking ass.
Yeah, and so the thing to understand is this is like watching The Godfather. There are no innocent people in this particular show. There are no, everyone is a criminal.
You just like some more than the other?
Yes. It's like watching Breaking Bad.
But what I liked about the novela is they were characters, like the way they developed the characters, they were bad. They were all bad, but they were very likable, and you're like, oh, I can understand why they had to do that, or why they were bad, because they were being, I don't know, so you kind of justified it in your own head, as to why it was okay. And like the Española, she was one of my favorite characters, the one that she was in prison with. So I'm assuming eventually they'll get to that point where she's in jail, and they have the girl who's her friend,
other
and
characters.
they become really good friends, and eventually I guess they'll get to that, but I haven't seen that storyline yet.
Seriously, there's a lot of creative license that they've taken. Like, for example, the Padrino, who in the USA version is hunting her down, but in the Mexican version actually helped her get to safety. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And spoiler alert, so you may not want to listen to this for those of you who are actually watching the show, is that in the Mexican version, it turns out that her boyfriend was an informant for the DEA, and that's why he got killed. Or something. Now, Justina Machado is also another character that is very new and is supposed to be prominent in this show, and I love her. She is a wonderful, wonderful actress.
I've seen her in other stuff, and I like her in other stuff too.
6 Feet Under, I think, or something like that.
It's something earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I love her, but it's you can very tell that the show is very, very, very focused on the women. That they're the ones who are moving everything forward. But her character, she's got an edge to her. She's very much, she's going to do what's necessary. And whereas in the Mexican version, it was more about her reacting because of her love for her significant other, whoever that may be at the time. In this one, it's more about the fact that she is, you can already, they're absolutely putting it, she is going to be, like you said, a badass.
I'm just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, so
don't prolong it so long. Just
I
make her
watched
badass.
it. I watched it. Well, I'm sorry, going back to the rape scene, was it her being raped?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the first time they show that she kills someone. Because she takes advantage of his distraction to get a gun and shoot him. Now, in the American version, that's where they go with this whole thing on... They're doing this thing where she's flashing forward to, like, a vision of herself in the future. In the Mexican version, they didn't do that. But in the Mexican version, it's very... I mean, the scene is incredibly similar. In the book, they don't provide that kind of detail, but they do go into the fact that this is not the first time she was...
molested.
She was assaulted.
And so was in the Mexican version that she had been taken advantage of, like, since her childhood.
Well, she lived on the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, this is not an environment that's forgiving to women. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna continue to watch because I want to see what happens. I also want to see how USA takes this and what they're going to do with it and how far away from the original they're going to go. I'm really interested in that.
I'm going to check in a couple of weeks to see if she's a badass yet. And then I'll watch.
And then you'll watch it.
Well, at the speed that they're going, she'll be in charge of everything in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
At their speed? Oh, because you said they're moving so fast. Okay.
And that's this week's in case you missed it. If you're just tuning in, this is the Little Radio Show on hmsnetradio.org. There's several reasons why the three of us ended up doing a show together. And the three of us being Juan, who is not here with us today, and Angelica.
He abandoned us for Miami. FYI, guys.
So there's a reason why the three of us ended up doing a show together. And the first is we're really good friends. We've been friends for several years, and we've worked really well together on several projects that we've done. You know, we put a conference together, we've done workshop series, all this other stuff, so it's great. But one of the reasons is that we operate blogs that are very similar in types of topics, and so they really mesh together, and the topic is Latino lifestyle.
Yes.
And so y'all do a website that is more general than mine, and mine is very hyperlocal. Every week we introduce ourselves and say what we do, and I say I'm the publisher of HispanicHouston.com.
Well, I don't think you're being a very modest and humble here. Sandra's website is HispanicHouston.com, and actually she gets seeked out by many everyday people who want to know what events are taking place in Houston, which is why she's very hyper-local. So, I mean, we're talking about like the Guadalupanas that take place, which is one of the reasons she actually started.
Yes.
One of the Guadalupanas that takes place is that there was no events out there for it. I mean, there was no page. Nobody exactly knew what was going on. And so Sandra created this page with that in mind. And now she's very much seeked out for it. Her page views are phenomenal. Her likes on her Facebook, I mean, up the roof. For very good reason, is that people are interested in everyday things that they can do, that they can participate in, that they can take place, that they don't have to go rummage around. And so they visit your site.
Well, just to give it a little bit of background on the website, HispanicHouston.com, I started it in early 2013, officially. I always say that I launched it in April because that's when I started telling people about it. But the reality is that it started out because I was looking for information about Fiesta Guadalupana event that was happening and wanted to share it with a friend who doesn't speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. And the only information that I could find was on like Univision and Telemundo. And I'm like, okay. And so I was bemoaning to a mutual friend saying, okay, well, there is no website out there. There's no resource that has a compilation of information about events that are relevant to the Hispanic community that's
Correct.
in English.
Correct. And I was just going to mention that. I was just going to say that your site, even though it's Hispanic Houston, it's not in Spanish. And it's very purposeful because it's inclusive to everything in general and inclusive to everything Hispanic.
Yes.
That might take place like in Spanish, but you want to know it in English. So it might be like festivals, things that you can enjoy, that not so much a seminar or conference, but actual things that you can enjoy with your family and friends and so on and so forth.
And absolutely. And so I made the decision early on when I was creating the website that the site would be in English because there are already other websites that are providing information in Spanish. And so more than 2/3 of what we have on the website is calendar of events, which is, and it's things that are happening, professional organizations, nonprofit organizations, community events, things. Some of them are specific to the Hispanic community, and some of them are broad enough that I think that they would be of interest to the Hispanic community, like parades and marathons and other things. But then I also include little tidbits of news. Some of them are profiles, some of them are news items, some of them are book reviews, food reviews, movie reviews, found on TV kind of stuff, things like that, things that I think would be of interest to the Hispanic community in Houston or about the Hispanic community in Houston.
I like that you say about Hispanic community in Houston because sometimes some of the people that look into that website aren't exactly Hispanic, but take interest in the Hispanic community as to terms of like what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's a nice mix. So like, of course, then there's the stuff that's just, I think would be of interest, but I post because they're interesting to me. So I'm a big science fiction geek, a big horror movie geek, and I will post stuff on there about, The Walking Dead and Battlestar Galactica when it was on, and, and other stuff like that. There's someone in the community who won awards, if there's scholarships that are open, stuff like that maybe...
It's a very much a representation of you, but in a form of in a form of events.
Yes.
It's kind of things that I think sometimes, Sandra, I think it's things that you wish you do it all.
Yes.
But you don't, so you share it.
So, it'll be things like concerts and music, and then maybe things that are happening at the park or at the museum or other stuff like that. And so I get to encourage other people to go out and do the things maybe I don't have the time to do myself.
Yeah.
Which is great. I do get, I'm at the point now where I do get invited to go and attend events to cover them as media. News
and
conferences.
Rightfully so.
News conferences.
You do a good job.
Oh, thank you.
You do a good job of covering actually all the events. Things that we're lifestyle, things that I don't think that we would cover. Like, for example, things that are taking place like within that facility next month, you will include that. It's not something that I do, but you do a very phenomenal job and you take a different approach and a different angle with it.
But, one of the interesting things is everyone's a critic. And so when I first started the website, and even now, I get the question of why isn't it in Spanish? Why is it in Spanish is one of the first questions that I get. And I'm like...
Is it in Spanish?
Yeah. Well, no, not is it in Spanish? Well, no one asks me, is it in Spanish? People just assume that it is because the word Hispanic is in it. But why isn't it in Spanish is one of the questions that I get most frequently. And I'm trying to explain to people about working that this is for English dominant Hispanics or Hispanics who are bilingual but feel more comfortable consuming information in English. just because my parents might speak Spanish or my grandparents speak Spanish doesn't mean that I watch Televisa or that I read, Spanish language newspaper or whatever. And even if you are bilingual, and even if you know a certain amount of Spanish, there's, especially in Houston, there are a large number of Hispanics for whom Spanish is emotional, not functional. And they don't receive their information in Spanish. They still feel very tied to the Hispanic community.
Entitled.
Very engaged. They feel very in tune with their roots, but reaching out to them in Spanish is really not going to be the way to go.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And a lot of brands
it's like
are
when you're
finally waking up to this. Like you're seeing a lot more TV commercials and other stuff.
Well, here's the thing. You would sell to them. You're selling to them the way you would sell them a house or a car. You're not going to sell to them in Spanish if that's not their predominant language. You're not going to make them understand that.
There are people who do, who the first thing is, we're reaching out to the Hispanic community. To them, that automatically means immigrant Spanish dominant. And
correct.
If that is who your audience is, then that's great. But there's a large portion of affluent Hispanics. There's a growing segment of Hispanics who don't speak Spanish or who are not Spanish dominant. And these are the markets that brands are finally tapping into and putting money behind. Mark. Yes. And so, what do we always say? Culturally relevant content.
Yeah.
So it's not so much putting content out in Spanish, it's putting culturally relevant content. It's, talking about things that this community, this audience will find interesting, but doing it in a language in which they're comfortable. And that's why I created Hispanic Houston. I started out as a project that I knew was needed. And then when I became a business owner, I started to put a little bit more emphasis on it. And so I'm very happy with the reception that it's getting. I'm very happy with the increase in readership and, the increase in pitches. So it's one of those things where I knew what I wanted to do with it, and I'm finally seeing it happen.
You're finally seeing the outcome of it.
Yes.
One of the things that you failed to mention, your best article, it's not an actual event, it's an article, and I know you're going to kill me for this later, but I want to mention it anyway.
Okay.
It's the Hispanic versus Latino, and it was a riot on there. If there were chairs to be thrown around, cars to be flipped, trees to be torched, it would have happened down in the comments of that section, because you did a phenomenal job of explaining it, and then other people have other interpretations, and it seems the Hispanic and Latino term seems to be forever changing. It seems to be an ongoing conversation, and I love the fact that you included something like this, because that is a representation of what your site is. It's geared towards Latinos, Hispanics, non-Hispanics, non-Latinos, all in the language of English.
So first of all, oh my God, I can't believe you brought that up. I actually literally just turned down a TV interview to go and talk about this, because I get asked a lot. Okay, backing up. In the first year that I had my website up, I had a conversation with an author, because I used to work for the library and we had authors all the time. And she was telling me about a conversation that she had where this topic came up. And the topic was the differences between the word Hispanic and the word Latino. And based upon my conversation with her, I thought about it for about a week. And I sat down and I wrote a very simple, kind of tongue-in-cheek post on my website about what the differences are between the word Latino and the word Hispanic. It was very simple, very straightforward. I posted it.
You did a great job.
Thank you. And it's the most visited page on my website. It's the most commented page. I think it's something like 150 comments at this point. People who thank me for the descriptions, and people who take me to task because they are telling me that from an academic standpoint it's completely wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. People who take me to task for buying into the label stuff. International audience people who are telling me that only in America do we have this like that? Only in America do we have this preoccupation with making sure that everyone is tagged, that kind of stuff. And it's very very interesting because people will go up and they'll start... I'll get blasted by someone, and someone will come back and defend me, and someone will come back and respond to them. And
tear you apart
it's very
again.
Interesting. So just to clarify, what the post says is that the difference between Hispanic and Latino is this. You are Hispanic if you or your family comes from a country where the predominant language is Spanish. Mm-hmm. You're Latino if you or your family comes from a Latin American country. So what that means is if you're Brazilian, you're Latino. You're Latino, but you're not Hispanic. If you're from Spain, you're Hispanic, but you're not Latino.
Basically.
Now, for those of you with the academic background who want to tell me about Hispania and the Latin and the Latin influence and Portuguese and all this other stuff, here Latino means short for Latino Americano or Latin American, and I understand it's absolutely out there. Now, the reality is that what you call yourself is what you call yourself.
Correct, very much. Sometimes some of us don't even call ourselves Hispanic or Latino. We're Mexican American.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. We invite you to check out our iTunes and our Stitcher channels and leave us a rating or a review. You can find the link to both channels at thelittleradioshow.com.